Sometimes children see things that adults have forgotten how to notice. When Elvis took Lisa Marie to see Johnny Cash perform in Memphis, he expected his daughter to be impressed by the showmanship and spectacle. Instead, Lisa Marie focused on something completely different, something so simple yet so profound that it made Elvis question everything he thought he knew about connecting with an audience. Her observation that night changed not just his music, but his entire understanding of what it means to truly touch people's hearts. If you believe that the most important lessons in life sometimes come from the smallest voices, you're going to love this father-daughter story that changed music history. Hit that subscribe button because we're sharing the moments that prove children often see the truth that adults miss. June 15, 1977. 9-year-old Lisa Marie Presley was bouncing with excitement in the back seat of her father's Cadillac as they drove through downtown Memphis. Tonight was going to be her very first real concert, not one of Daddy's shows, but someone else's performance that she could experience just like any other music fan. Elvis had been looking forward to this night for weeks. Johnny Cash, one of his oldest friends and fellow Sun Records alumni, was performing at the Memphis Municipal Auditorium. It seemed like the perfect introduction to live music for Lisa Marie, intimate enough not to be overwhelming, but featuring an artist whose storytelling and authenticity Elvis deeply respected. "Daddy, will it be loud?" Lisa Marie asked, adjusting the small pair of earplugs Elvis had bought specially for her. "It might be, baby girl," Elvis replied, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "But that's part of the magic. When music is live, when you can feel it in your chest and see the person singing right there in front of you, it's different from hearing it on the radio." Lisa Marie nodded solemnly, understanding that this was an important educational moment. At 9 years old, she was already showing signs of inherited musical talent, but Elvis wanted her to understand music as an art form, not just something that happened in their house. As they walked into the auditorium, Elvis noticed how different it felt to be in the audience rather than backstage. He'd performed in this venue countless times, but experiencing it through Lisa Marie's eyes reminded him of his own first concert experiences as a teenager. "Look how many people love music just like we do," Elvis pointed out as they found their seats, intentionally positioned in the middle of the venue rather than VIP sections, so Lisa Marie could have an authentic audience experience. The auditorium was filled with families, couples, and music lovers of all ages. Elvis had specifically chosen Johnny Cash's show because he knew Cash connected with audiences in a way that transcended typical entertainment. He told stories, shared emotions, and created real moments of human connection. As the lights dimmed, Elvis watched Lisa Marie's face more than the stage. Her eyes widened with anticipation, and he could see her taking in every detail, the way conversations gradually quieted, how the energy in the room shifted, the collective intake of breath when the spotlight hit the stage. Johnny Cash took the stage in his signature black outfit, carrying his guitar with the easy confidence of someone who'd been performing for decades. But what struck Elvis immediately was something he'd never noticed before, because he'd never watched Cash from the audience perspective. Cash didn't just perform songs, he created conversations with the crowd. Between each number he would share a story, ask the audience a question, or make an observation about life that connected the music to something deeper. He made 3,000 people feel like they were sitting in his living room, listening to a friend. "Hello, Memphis," Cash said into the microphone. "I want to tell you about a song I wrote after watching a sunset with my wife June. Sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we stop trying so hard to find them." Elvis found himself listening with new ears. He'd heard Cash perform hundreds of times, but tonight, seeing the show through Lisa Marie's fresh perspective, he noticed things he'd missed before. Throughout the performance, Elvis kept glancing at his daughter, curious about her reactions. Lisa Marie wasn't watching the stage the way he expected. While Elvis found himself analyzing Cash's guitar technique, stage presence, and song choices, Lisa Marie seemed to be observing something entirely different. She was watching the audience. During Cash's performance of Ring of Fire, Elvis noticed Lisa Marie turning around in her seat to look at the people behind them. When Cash sang "I Walk the Line," she was studying the faces of the couple next to them, who were holding hands and singing along softly. "What are you looking at, baby?" Elvis whispered during a quiet moment between songs. "The people," Lisa Marie whispered back. "They look so happy, like they're remembering something good." Elvis followed her gaze and suddenly saw what she was seeing. Cash wasn't just performing for the audience. He was helping them access their own emotions, their own memories, their own stories. The man in the front row had tears in his eyes during Sunday Morning Coming Down. The elderly woman across the aisle was smiling with pure joy during Jackson. After the show ended and they were driving home through the Memphis night, Elvis expected Lisa Marie to talk about the music, the lights, or the excitement of the crowd. Instead, she was unusually quiet, processing what she'd experienced. "So what did you think of your first concert?" Elvis asked as they stopped at a red light. Lisa Marie was quiet for a moment, the way children get when they're trying to put complex thoughts into words. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Anything." "Why didn't Mr. Cash look at himself when he was singing?" Elvis didn't understand the question at first. "What do you mean, baby?" "Well, when you perform at home, sometimes you look in the mirror to see how you look. But Mr. Cash never looked at himself. He only looked at the people. And the people, they weren't looking at him either." Elvis felt something shift in his understanding. What were they looking at? Inside themselves, Lisa Marie said with the simple clarity that only children possess. The music was making them look inside themselves, like Mr. Cash was holding up a mirror for them, not for him. Elvis pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned around to face his daughter. "Lisa Marie, can you tell me more about what you saw?" When Mr. Cash sang the sad songs, people looked like they were thinking about sad things that happened to them. When he sang happy songs, they looked like they were remembering happy times. It was like the music was helping them visit places in their hearts. Elvis sat in stunned silence. His 9-year-old daughter had just articulated something about the purpose of music that he'd never consciously understood, despite performing for over 20 years. "And you know what else, Daddy?" Lisa Marie continued. "Mr. Cash looked happy too, not because people were clapping for him, but because he was helping them feel things, like when you help me when I'm sad, and it makes you happy too." That night, after Lisa Marie was asleep, Elvis sat in his study at Graceland, deeply troubled by his daughter's observations. He realized that somewhere along the way, he'd lost sight of what Lisa Marie had seen so clearly in Johnny Cash's performance. When had he stopped looking at the audience and started performing for himself? When had he begun focusing on his own image, his own moves, his own voice, instead of using his gifts to help people connect with their own emotions? He thought about his recent performances, the elaborate costumes, the choreographed moves, the focus on spectacle rather than connection. Had he become more concerned with being Elvis Presley than with sharing music that touched people's hearts? The next morning, Elvis called his longtime guitarist and friend Scotty Moore. "Scotty, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me." "Shoot, Elvis. When I perform these days, do you think I'm connecting with the audience, or am I just putting on a show?" Scotty was quiet for a moment. "Elvis, what brought this on?" Elvis told him about Lisa Marie's observations from the Cash concert. "She saw something that I've been blind to. I think I've been performing for the wrong reasons." "What do you want to do about it?" Scotty asked. "I want to get back to the music, real music, music that helps people feel something true." Over the next month, Elvis embarked on what would become some of the most emotionally authentic recording sessions of his career. Instead of focusing on commercial appeal or maintaining his image, he chose songs and arranged performances specifically to create the kind of emotional connection Lisa Marie had observed in Johnny Cash's show. He recorded intimate versions of gospel songs that reminded him of singing in church as a child. He chose country ballads that told real stories about real people facing real struggles. Most importantly, he approached each song by asking himself, how can this music help someone access their own heart? The resulting album, which fans and critics would later call his most emotionally powerful work, featured Elvis's voice stripped of artifice and filled with genuine emotion. You could hear the difference. He wasn't performing to be admired. He was singing to create connection. When Elvis returned to live performance with his new approach, the change was immediate and profound. Instead of elaborate staging and choreographed movements, he performed simply, just him, his guitar, and songs chosen for their emotional truth rather than their entertainment value. During his first show with this new approach, Elvis did something he'd never done before. He looked directly at individual audience members while he sang, the way Cash had done. He watched their faces, their reactions, their emotional responses to the music. What he saw changed him forever. Just as Lisa Marie had observed, the audience wasn't really looking at him. They were looking inside themselves, using his music as a mirror for their own experiences and emotions. Word spread quickly through the music industry that Elvis had undergone some kind of artistic transformation. Music critics who had written him off as a has-been were suddenly taking notice. But more importantly, fans began responding to his performances in a completely different way. Letters poured into Graceland from people describing how his new approach to music had helped them through difficult times, reminded them of important relationships, or simply made them feel less alone in the world. One letter particularly moved Elvis. It was from an elderly man who wrote, "Mr. Presley, I attended your concert last week with my wife. During your performance of He Touched Me, I found myself thinking about my late mother for the first time in years without feeling sad. Your music helped me remember the love instead of the loss. Thank you for giving me that gift." Elvis continued to evolve his artistic approach, He began asking Lisa Marie for her perspective on his performances. She would attend his shows and afterward share her observations about how the music affected both him and the audience. "Daddy, tonight you looked happy while you were singing," she told him after one particularly successful show. "And so did everyone else. It was like you were all sharing the same feeling." Her innocent observations became invaluable guidance for Elvis's artistic choices. She helped him understand when a performance felt authentic versus when it felt like showing off, as she put it. Lisa Marie's insight about Johnny Cash's performance became the foundation for what many consider Elvis's greatest artistic period. By shifting his focus from self-presentation to audience connection, Elvis rediscovered the joy and purpose that had originally drawn him to music. Years later, Lisa Marie would reflect on that night as one of her most treasured memories with her father. "He didn't just take me to my first concert," she said. "He let me teach him something about music that changed how he approached his art for the rest of his life." The story of Lisa Marie's first concert reveals something profound about the purpose of artistic expression. True artistry isn't about displaying talent or seeking admiration. It's about creating spaces where people can connect with their own emotions, memories, and experiences. Johnny Cash understood this instinctively. Elvis had to relearn it through the fresh eyes of his 9-year-old daughter. But once he embraced this truth, his music became more powerful than it had ever been. This beautiful story shows us that sometimes the most important teachers are the ones who see the world without the cynicism and complexity that experience can bring. Lisa Marie's innocent observation about audience connection became the catalyst for her father's artistic renewal. More importantly, it demonstrates the special bond between a father and daughter, one where Elvis was humble enough to learn from his child's wisdom, and Lisa Marie was perceptive enough to see truths that adults had forgotten. This incredible story proves that wisdom can come from the most unexpected sources, and that sometimes we need fresh eyes to help us see old truths. If Lisa Marie's innocent observation and Elvis's willingness to learn from his daughter touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and share this story with every parent and music lover you know. Let us know in the comments about a time when a child taught you something important, because sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths.